Okay, so we're going to be booting up some games and just actually play. So when it comes to, let's say, the Odin, I think it's absolutely an amazing device. But if you want to just mess around with some, let's say, old school stuff like 8-bit, you should consider not buying this, because there are so many different ways you can play that are working so much easier. Nevertheless, it's absolutely great. Also when it comes to the D-pad, the analog stick, I find it an absolutely pleasant experience. I'm still getting punched in the freaking face by the freaking annoying dude. But beside that, yep, it's absolutely great. You can press the buttons, go to RetroArch, close content, mess around with it. So when it comes to tinkering, you can do a lot of cool things. But of course, you can just mess around with it and just get it in different configuration going on. And throughout, let's say you can go to a different game and just start it up from there. So let's move on to some PlayStation 1 gaming and emulation. This is the same story like the 8-bit, 16-bit. There are so many different, let's say, emulators and also handhelds that can play this just fine. So now we do have some widescreen shenanigans going on. But everything seems to be running just fine when it comes to that. Okay, so for the real test, let's get into the PP emulator. And with this, we're going to be absolutely having great overall performance. Settings over here, we're having set to the backend Vulkan, but we have 8 times the resolution on 4K. And I was quite surprised to see that this actually runs perfect. You can see you can go easily through in the menu when pressing the certain button over here. Let's speed it up. When moving into the game, this runs absolutely great. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the front-facing speakers sound amazing. This sounds so much better than original PlayStation Portable. The 4K resolution is absolutely great, but I would say that this is more like a beneficial situation if you're going to be plugging this thing into, let's say, the HDMI functionality or the docking itself that we're going to be discussing later on. So with some outrun, let's check it out. With 4K resolution, no problem whatsoever. I think we're going to actually throw all kinds of games on this thing without any problem. And even if we're having some frames like we're doing now, we can just always like do a little bit of a tweaking throughout the game. Full 60 FPS. It had some minor dips, but no problem here, baby. Woo! We dip into 30. It's going sucky, yeah. Let's tweak it. Let's go back. Let's see if we can go into the 6 FPS, and then let's go back. Continue. Let's see if this is going to be better than before. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is much better. So with particular games you need to tweak, but I love it, man. And the audio of this thing. There we go. Let's crank it up. Oh. Man, that's nuts, yo. Man, I love this thing. Moving on to some GameCube emulation with the MMJR3 emulator. And I found it absolutely unpleasant surprise that we can actually play this on a device like this. So let's get into the gameplay. Upscaling was not something I would do that easily on a device like this, but still it's absolutely great to see that we can actually have some option to play some GameCube and Wii on this with the Dolphin emulator. I don't need any stutters or many stutters that we have in the beginning normally. I'm watching through my screen of the camera to actually play this, but that is not the way how you should play. Another thing I just wanted to check out, how does it work with the turbo. So when you're actually pressing the X button, you're going to be boosting up yourself. It's not super convenient, but I do notice when actually holding the device itself, you're just slightly like touching the right analog stick. So when it comes to playing F-Zero GX control wise, this is not like say the favorite handheld to play with, because everything is so close by when it comes to the joystick and the A, B, X, Y buttons. And the next emulator, I just wanted to check out some Dreamcast with the Redream emulator. We've been upscaling this to 1080p just to actually see how the overall performance will be. I've been messing around with 4K, but he didn't really like doing that, so I figured let's put this thing on 1080p to see to have a solid 60 FPS going on. With Dreamcast can be played on native resolution on many devices now. That is something you should decide, like, is this an extra value for you? Because having like upscaling on a device like this, it looks absolutely better, but not to a certain point that I think it's worth the extra money buying something like this. You just see that a minor like hiccups over there. So one of the new additions to the Odin 2 is the Sega Saturn. Absolutely one of those hidden gem consoles that can actually be played on here. Batsugon, oh man, the Sega Saturn had so many cool shmups on there. Nevertheless, when you're looking at devices like this, I think there are so many different ways to actually play these games, because there are handhelds out there when a lot of money can actually do the same. But of course, it's just something I just needed to showcase, because this is absolutely fun. So let's crank up the volume. This thing goes very loud. But when you're looking at, let's say, some Sega Saturn and some more games, you find not a lot of games that run really bad on this device. And that has to do thanks of, let's say, the right emulator in combination with the power that beholds in this machine. Yeah, it's absolutely a very cool overall great combination. And I can tell you that this is just a very overall great experience for Sega Saturn. Combining this with the new Nether SCX2, you're getting absolutely overall better performance. It's still going to be a hit or miss. It depends of the compatibility in emulator and the game itself. I can tell you that some of the games run absolutely amazing on this, and this is actually where you should get yourself an Odin 2 for. I already mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you love 8-bit, 16-bit, there are so many different solutions out there. And I think it's not even worth like buying something like this. This is just fun if you want to emulate like high-end stuff like GameCube, PlayStation 2 and all kinds of cool stuff. But the performance of PlayStation 2 on this device is so much better than the previous, let's say, handheld. It's absolutely amazing what they managed to do with this. And of course, don't forget the people who are behind it in the community who are making the emulators and making this all possible. So this video I just want to check out a couple of games for the PlayStation 2 Nether SCX2 emulator. And so far I have seen, the game seems to be running all great when it comes to this.